The stars shone brightly in the endless night of space, stretching across the blackness like tiny scattered diamonds. Among them floated the city of Zoraya, a place that shimmered with metal towers, glowing walkways, and silent flying crafts gliding through the void. It was a city of knowledge, built by a race of aliens who had lived for centuries and mastered both science and art. This city was peaceful, calm, and yet full of history, a place where stories of countless civilizations were stored in vast memory banks and archives. Kalar, a veteran of many interstellar wars, moved slowly through the corridors of the city. His four arms carried a faint silver glow, marking him as one of the elders of his species. Kalar's eyes, deep and reflective like liquid night, held memories that spanned lifetimes. He had seen planets rise and fall, civilizations thrive and collapse, and countless battles fought across the galaxy. Yet, despite his long life, there was one species that always caught his attention: humans. Today, he was expecting visitors, young alien historians who were eager to learn about the past. They were new to the idea of human conflicts, for their species had always believed that humans were weak and insignificant in the cosmic order. But Kalar knew otherwise. Humans were a puzzle, strange and unpredictable. They were fragile, yes, but their courage and spirit were unlike anything he had ever seen. The historians arrived, their forms shimmering with curiosity and nervous energy. They had heard of Kalar's stories before, but none had met him personally. They stood silently as Kalar invited them into his quarters, a spacious room filled with artifacts, ancient weapons, and holographic displays showing scenes of faraway worlds. "Welcome," Kalar said, his voice deep and calm, echoing softly in the room. "Today, I will share with you stories that may change the way you see humans. You may have thought they are simple, primitive, and easy to understand. You are wrong." The young historians exchanged surprised glances. One of them, a tall alien with luminous blue skin named Vera, stepped forward. "Why humans, Master Kalar? They are small, barely capable of traveling beyond their own star system. How could they matter to the galaxy?" Kalar smiled faintly. "That is exactly why they are important. They are underestimated, ignored, and often dismissed. But that is when they show their true strength. Let me show you." He gestured to a large holographic map of a small blue planet. "This is Earth, a world that seems ordinary, almost insignificant. Yet, it is here that I first saw humans in their conflicts. They fought not for glory, not for conquest, but for survival, for ideas, for each other." The room grew quiet as the hologram expanded, showing images of mountains, forests, cities, and oceans. Humans moved across their planet with energy and purpose, building societies, exploring the unknown, and facing dangers both natural and man-made. Kalar began his first story. Long ago, humans faced a threat that could have destroyed them entirely. Their planet was divided, and many of their own species fought against one another. Yet, even in these struggles, I saw something remarkable: creativity, courage, and an ability to adapt. They were weak in technology compared to some alien races I had met, but they used their minds, their hearts, and their determination to survive. Vera's eyes widened. They fought each other? How could that teach anything about strength? "Because strength is not only in weapons or shields," Kalar replied. "It is in will, in spirit, in refusing to give up even when everything seems lost. Humans understood this better than most species." He activated another holographic display, showing a battlefield. It was a human city, torn apart by conflict. Smoke rose from buildings, and humans moved with urgency, tending to the wounded, moving supplies, and protecting one another. "See that?" Kalar pointed with a delicate gesture. A single human engineer repaired a critical system under fire, saving hundreds. Another led a small group to evacuate children from danger. These acts may seem small, but in their world, they decided the course of the battle. The young historians leaned closer, fascinated. They had always believed that victory came from strength, numbers, and advanced technology. Yet, here was a species that relied on determination, creativity, and teamwork. Kalar continued. "Humans learn quickly, They adapt faster than any other species I have encountered. When they face a challenge, they do not rely solely on power. They invent, improvise, and unite. You may call it luck. I call it spirit. Vera shook her head, still unsure. But they are still fragile, easily hurt, and many die in their conflicts. How can that be seen as strength? Fragility is not weakness, Kalar said firmly. Fragility is proof of their courage. To fight knowing you may fail, to continue despite fear, that is the human way. Strength is not in being invincible, it is in refusing to be defeated. The historians fell silent, absorbing Kalar's words. They had never considered strength in such a way. Their own species prized longevity, power, and control. Humans, by contrast, lived short lives, faced countless dangers, and yet still accomplished feats that astonished Kalar. He led them to another part of the room, where a human artifact rested, a simple book, worn and faded. This is a record of one of their greatest conflicts, Kalar explained. It tells of leaders who did not seek power for themselves, but for their people. It tells of ordinary humans performing extraordinary acts. And it tells of hope, even when the world seemed lost. Vera reached out cautiously, touching the book. It feels alive, she whispered. Indeed, Kalar said. It is alive with spirit. Humans leave marks not only on their world, but on everyone who witnesses their courage. Even I, a veteran of countless wars, have been humbled by them. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. Outside the city of Zoraya, stars continued to shine, oblivious to the stories of one small planet that held such extraordinary life. Kalar activated another hologram, showing humans working together during a natural disaster. A massive storm had struck their planet, and yet humans rescued one another, rebuilt homes, and shared resources. Even outside war, he said, humans show the same determination. They fight not for conquest, but for survival, for justice, and for each other. That is why I study them, and why I share these stories with you. The young historians were amazed. We always thought humans were primitive, said another historian, a small alien named Lumo. But they are unlike anything we have seen. Yes, Kalar agreed. Primitive in technology, perhaps, but not in spirit. That is what makes them dangerous and remarkable. He took a deep breath and continued. Let me tell you the first story of conflict I witnessed. It was on a small human colony, far from Earth. A group of humans faced an alien species far stronger than themselves. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped. Most species would have surrendered or fled. But humans, they fought differently. They observed, they learned. They created strategies from nothing. They adapted to every challenge, turning their weakness into strength. The historians leaned closer, eager to hear more. They used traps, diversions, and clever maneuvers. They did not rely on superior firepower. They had none. They relied on their minds, their hearts, and their unity. Each human knew the risk, yet none faltered. One small group of humans delayed an entire battalion, giving their colony time to survive. That delay, seemingly minor, saved countless lives. That is the human way, Vera whispered. It is beautiful and terrifying. Kalar nodded. Yes, it is beautiful because of courage. Terrifying because no one can predict what humans will do. That is why the galaxy watches them with both fear and respect. He paused, his eyes distant. Humans are unpredictable, often reckless, but they achieve what others believe impossible. They inspire hope, even in the darkest times. That is why I continue to study them. That is why I share these stories. For in their struggles, we see the potential of a species that refuses to be ordinary. The room grew quiet again, the young historians reflecting on everything Kalar had said. Outside, the stars glimmered like witnesses to the tales of courage unfolding light years away. Kalar looked at the holograms one last time. Tomorrow, he said softly, I will tell you more. You will see how humans face impossible odds and turn despair into victory. You will see how they fight not for themselves alone, but for each other. That is the essence of what makes them extraordinary. The historians bowed their heads in respect, eager to hear more. Kalar smiled faintly, knowing that the stories he would tell would change the way these young aliens viewed the galaxy forever. Humans were more than creatures of flesh and bone. They were beacons of spirit, courage, and hope. And so, in the quiet city among the stars, the veteran alien prepared to reveal the haunting, inspiring, and unforgettable stories of humanity's conflicts. Stories that would challenge everything the galaxy thought it knew about strength, courage, and the power of a determined heart. The stars beyond Zoraya shimmered like endless lanterns, silent witnesses to the stories of countless civilizations. Within his quarters, Kalar moved among the holograms and artifacts, the young historians following closely. Their eyes reflected curiosity, wonder, and an unspoken question. How could humans, so small and seemingly fragile, face the galaxy and survive? Kalar activated a new holographic display, projecting a scene from a distant human colony. It was a world with sprawling deserts, jagged mountains, and scattered settlements. Smoke rose in the distance, evidence of recent conflict. The historians leaned closer, drawn by the vivid images of humans moving through chaos. This, Kalar began, is the story of human ingenuity. It is one of my favorites because it shows how humans turn weakness into strength. He explained the situation. A human colony, far from Earth, had settled on a planet rich in resources but harsh in climate. Shortly after establishing their outpost, they were attacked by a powerful alien species known as the Theral. The Theral were strong, advanced in technology, and relentless in pursuit of conquest. They outnumbered the humans 10-1 and had weapons capable of destroying entire cities with ease. Most species, Kalar said, would surrender immediately, knowing resistance was futile. Most would have fled. Humans did neither. The hologram zoomed in on the colony. Humans were moving through rubble, repairing damaged equipment, and organizing defenses. Kalar narrated as images showed the humans' clever tactics. They first studied their enemy. They observed the Theral's movements, their strengths, and weaknesses. Then they planned, not to fight in a straight line, but to think differently. Humans often use deception, misdirection, and traps. What they lack in power, they make up for with imagination and speed of thought. One historian, Lumo, gasped, "They are so small. How can they affect such a large force?" Kalar's eyes glinted with memory. That is the point. Humans are underestimated at every step. That is why they succeed. One human engineer, named Elias, created a device to confuse the Theral's sensors. Another, a commander named Kara, led a small group to block supply routes, delaying the enemy by days. These small acts, combined, changed the course of the battle. He paused, letting the historians absorb the significance. Notice how humans work together. Every individual, no matter their role, contributes. Some fight, some build, some plan. None are idle. And each act, no matter how small, has meaning. The hologram shifted to a scene of humans using their environment as a weapon. The desert landscape became a tool. Humans led enemy forces into narrow canyons, where large rocks fell, blocking paths and confusing the Theral. Small teams set traps, creating diversions and illusions to make the enemy believe the humans were stronger than they appeared. Vera whispered, "They are clever." It is as if they know the enemy will never see the full plan until it is too late. Exactly, Kalar said. Humans excel at improvisation. When their plans fail, they adapt immediately. When the enemy changes tactics, humans respond. This is what makes them unpredictable. This is what makes them dangerous. He showed another holographic scene, a small human shuttle weaving through enemy fire. The humans inside were engineers, not soldiers, yet they managed to repair damaged drones mid-flight, turning them into decoys to distract the Theral. The alien historian stared in awe. Lumo asked, "But how can they survive against such a strong species? Surely some humans must die." Kalar nodded solemnly. "Many do. That is part of the cost. Humans understand risk in a way few species do. They accept danger because the mission, the survival of their people, or their ideals are more important than themselves. And even in loss, they find lessons to improve, to adapt, to continue fighting. The display shifted to a tense moment. A small human squad had trapped a Theral patrol inside a canyon. Outnumbered and cornered, the humans set up an elaborate ambush. They used mirrors to reflect sunlight into the enemy's eyes, sensors to predict movements, and small explosions to create confusion. When the Theral finally realized they were trapped, the humans had already escaped, leaving behind only chaos. Vera muttered, "It seems impossible. How can they think so quickly?" Kalar smiled faintly. "It is not just thinking. It is instinct, determination, and training. Humans combine creativity with courage. They are never satisfied with defeat. And they inspire each other. One human's bravery gives another strength, even when the odds are impossible." He gestured to a new hologram showing human citizens aiding the soldiers. Supplies, water, and information flowed from the townspeople to the outpost. Notice this. Humans do not fight alone. Their strength comes from cooperation. Even those who cannot wield weapons contribute. The spirit of the whole is stronger than any individual. That is why humans can survive against forces that should have destroyed them. The historians were silent, absorbing the magnitude of the human spirit. Kalar continued, "I once studied a battle on a remote planet where humans were entirely outnumbered. They had barely enough food and water, yet they held their position for weeks. How? They used tactics other species never imagined. They created decoys, improvised shields, and communicated silently using signals unknown to their enemies. Their coordination was extraordinary." He projected an image of a human leader, young and determined, giving orders to a small squad. This leader, Mara, coordinated attacks with precision. Each human understood their role perfectly. They moved like a single organism, even under fire. When one group faltered, others adapted instantly. By the end of the battle, the humans had not only survived but had forced the Theral to retreat. Luma whispered, "It is incredible. They are so small, yet so strong in ways we cannot measure." Kalar nodded. "That is the essence of human ingenuity. Strength is not only physical or technological. Strength is thinking, adapting, and never giving up. Humans teach this to the galaxy without even knowing it. Other species often rely on power, but humans rely on mind, heart, and will. And that combination is unmatched." He paused and let the room grow quiet. The only sound, the soft hum of the holographic projectors. "Another example," Kalar continued, "comes from a different world entirely. A human colony faced a natural disaster while also being attacked by an alien raiding party. Most species would have faced chaos and collapse. Humans?" He activated the hologram. Humans were working tirelessly, building temporary shelters, diverting floods, and still defending their homes. One human, a young engineer, repaired broken water systems while others carried supplies to those in need. They coordinated attacks against raiders while helping civilians evacuate. "Their multitasking is astonishing," Vera said. "They face war and disaster at the same time, and yet they survive?" Kalar nodded. "Yes, humans thrive under pressure. They do not panic. They find solutions where none seem possible. Even when surrounded, they use strategy, deception, and ingenuity to turn danger into advantage. That is why the galaxy underestimates them at its own peril." He activated a final display, showing humans celebrating a hard-won victory. They were exhausted, some wounded, yet there was joy, laughter, and relief. The young alien historians looked confused. "Why celebrate? They should mourn," one said. Kalar's eyes glimmered. "Humans mourn, yes. They feel loss deeply. But they also celebrate survival, bravery, and hope. This balance, their ability to endure hardship and still find joy, is another form of strength. It inspires not only themselves but those who witness it. Their victories are never complete without their spirit shining through." Vera whispered softly, "I think I understand now. Humans are not strong because of power alone. They are strong because of heart, mind, and courage together. Kalar nodded, a faint smile on his lips. Exactly. They are unpredictable, yes, but that is their greatest power. Other species may plan for the expected. Humans plan for the unexpected. And when the unexpected comes, they rise to meet it. He turned to the historians and spoke firmly. Remember this lesson. When studying humanity, do not look only at their weapons or numbers. Look at their creativity, their courage, their determination. Look at how they turn weakness into strength. That is how humans survive, how they inspire, and why they are unlike any other species in the galaxy. The room fell silent. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance, as if watching over the human stories unfolding light years away. Kalar deactivated the holograms and gestured to the historians. Tomorrow, I will tell you about the human wars that left lasting impressions on the galaxy. You will see how they rebuild, how they learn from their mistakes, and how their spirit leaves marks on history that even powerful civilizations cannot ignore. The historians bowed in respect, their minds filled with images of small humans defying impossible odds. They had thought humans were weak, but now they understood. Humans were clever, adaptable, and filled with a courage that could change the course of entire battles. Kalar watched the young aliens leave, a quiet sense of satisfaction settling over him. Humanity's stories were not just tales of conflict, they were lessons of courage, ingenuity, and the power of the spirit. And he would continue to share them, one story at a time, until the galaxy understood the true nature of humans. As the night stretched across the city of Zoraya, Kalar looked out at the stars, thinking of the humans he had witnessed across planets and battles. Each one was a spark of brilliance, a reminder that strength was more than numbers or weapons. It was the heart that refused to yield. And in that quiet moment, he knew the galaxy would one day recognize humans for what they truly were, a species that could face any challenge, adapt to any threat, and inspire hope even in the darkest of times. The city of Zoraya remained calm and luminous, a stark contrast to the chaotic worlds that Kalar had witnessed in his long life. The young alien historians arrived at his quarters once more, their curiosity burning brighter than ever. After hearing tales of human ingenuity and bravery, they were eager to understand another aspect of this remarkable species. Today, Kalar began, I will show you that human conflicts are not just battles of weapons and strategy. They are battles of the mind, of the heart, and of society. Humans leave lasting impressions, even after the fighting ends. The historians leaned forward as Kalar activated a new holographic display. It projected scenes of human cities damaged by war. Buildings lay in ruins, bridges had collapsed, and smoke rose from scattered fires. Yet, among the rubble, humans moved with determination, rebuilding, helping one another, and finding ways to survive. Look closely, Kalar said. These people have just endured conflict, and yet they are already planning how to recover. They do not allow despair to dominate them. They organize, rebuild, and learn from their mistakes. Vera tilted her head. But why? Other species often collapse after defeat. They lose hope, and their civilizations fall. Humans. Continue? Kalar nodded. Yes, that is part of their uniqueness. Humans are resilient. They understand loss, fear, and pain, but they do not let it destroy them. Instead, they grow stronger. Their conflicts teach them lessons that last generations, shaping their societies, their laws, and even their culture. He activated another scene, showing humans clearing rubble, helping the injured, and distributing food to survivors. Children were led to safe zones, elders were cared for, and communities worked together to restore order. Notice how every individual contributes, Kalar continued. Even the smallest effort matters. Humans understand that survival and recovery are collective responsibilities. This is why they are able to endure conflicts that would break other species. Lumo spoke softly. It seems extraordinary. They face destruction, yet they rebuild stronger than before. How is that possible? Kalar's eyes reflected the memories of countless human worlds. Because humans fight not only to survive, but for ideals, for each other, and for the future. When they lose, they mourn, yes, but they also act. They learn from failure, adapt their strategies, and strive to do better. That is how their conflicts leave lasting impressions on themselves and on history. The hologram shifted to a more detailed scene, a human city recovering after a planetary war. A council of human leaders met to discuss rebuilding, showing careful thought and collaboration. Engineers and architects planned new structures, while scientists worked to restore damaged technology and communication systems. Kalar pointed to a young human volunteer who organized food distribution in the most efficient way possible. Even young humans contribute in ways that matter. Age, experience, or strength does not determine value. Effort, initiative, and courage do. The historians observed in awe. They had seen alien civilizations with immense power, yet few demonstrated such coordinated resilience after conflict. Humans, small and seemingly fragile, consistently outperformed expectations. Humans also understand the importance of memory, Kalar continued. He activated a hologram showing humans building monuments, memorials, and museums. They record their history, honor those who fell, and teach the next generation what they learned. They do not repeat mistakes blindly. Every conflict, every challenge, becomes a lesson for the future. Vera's eyes widened. So even their losses have value? Exactly, Kalar said. A human defeat is never wasted. They analyze what went wrong, adjust their strategies, and grow stronger. This is why humans evolve so quickly compared to other species. Their conflicts shape them, guide them, and inspire them to achieve what others consider impossible. He then shared a more personal story. On a distant colony, humans faced an attack that destroyed most of their settlements. Survivors gathered together, forming councils to organize defenses and rebuild homes. They shared knowledge, skills, and resources. Even former enemies joined forces, putting aside differences for the common good. Through cooperation, they not only survived, they flourished. The historians were silent, absorbing the lesson. Humans did not merely fight, they grew, learned, and improved from their experiences. Kalar emphasized that this was not limited to physical conflict. Humans also fight against natural disasters, disease, and scarcity, Kalar explained. They face floods, storms, famines, and plagues with the same determination they show in war. Their ability to adapt, coordinate, and innovate under pressure is remarkable. They never rely solely on luck or power. They act. The hologram showed humans building emergency shelters, purifying water, and distributing medical aid after a catastrophic storm. Scientists and engineers collaborated to restore essential systems, while ordinary citizens volunteered tirelessly to help those in need. Luma whispered, "It is as if their spirit is stronger than the world itself." Kalar nodded. Yes, that is a defining feature of humans. Their spirit drives them to survive, rebuild, and protect what they care about. Conflicts, whether with other humans, alien species, or nature itself, teach them resilience, unity, and hope. He paused before showing another hologram, a human battlefield long after the fighting had ended. The land was scarred, but humans were planting trees, restoring water systems, and rebuilding homes. Survivors were teaching children to care for the injured and to honor those who had fallen. Notice, Kalar said softly, how humans turn even the most destructive events into opportunities to grow. They heal themselves, their communities, and their world. That is why their conflicts leave lasting impressions, not only on them, but on anyone who witnesses their actions. Vera leaned forward. So humans fight with purpose, and their purpose extends beyond the battle? Exactly, Kalar said. They fight for life, for ideals, and for each other. They fight not because they are strong in power alone, but because they are strong in heart and mind. That is what makes them extraordinary. He then shared a story of human reconciliation after war. Two factions had fought fiercely over resources on a distant planet. Many lives were lost, and hatred ran deep. Yet, over time, leaders from both sides recognized that continued conflict would only bring more suffering. Kalar activated the hologram. Humans shaking hands, sharing knowledge, and rebuilding together. They forgave, collaborated, and created a stronger society than before. Their willingness to learn from conflict and to unite despite differences is something few species can achieve. That is the human way. Lumo's eyes shone. It is inspiring. They are not only fighters but teachers for the galaxy. Indeed, Kalar agreed. Every conflict, every struggle, every challenge humans face leaves a lesson. That lesson spreads, not only among humans themselves, but also to those who witness it. Their resilience, courage, and ability to grow from adversity inspire hope, even in the darkest times. He activated one final scene. Humans celebrating recovery after a planetary disaster. Communities were stronger, children laughed and played, and leaders worked together to prevent future crises. The humans had endured loss, yet they were stronger, wiser, and more united. Kalar looked at the historians. Understand this. Human strength is not measured by the size of their armies, the power of their weapons, or even their numbers. It is measured by their courage, their unity, and their ability to grow from every conflict. That is why humans leave lasting impressions on the galaxy. Vera whispered, almost reverently. I understand now. Humans are not only brave, they are wise, resilient, and full of hope. That is why they matter. Kalar smiled. Yes, never underestimate them. Even the smallest human can change the course of a battle, a society, or even a world. Their conflicts shape them, teach them, and inspire others. That is their greatest power. The historians sat quietly, absorbing the lesson. Outside, the stars glimmered, and the city of Zoraya seemed calm, almost serene. Yet, Kalar knew that across the galaxy, humans were facing challenges that tested their courage, creativity, and unity. And yet, no matter the odds, they would endure and grow stronger. Tomorrow, Kalar said, I will share the final stories. Those that show humans facing near-extinction events, crises that should have destroyed them, yet they survived. You will see how humans leave marks on the galaxy that cannot be erased. You will see the true essence of their spirit. The historians bowed deeply, their minds alive with images of human resilience. They had learned that humans were more than warriors. They were builders, thinkers, teachers, and survivors. Their conflicts were not only battles, they were lessons shaping the past, present, and future. Kalar watched the young aliens leave, a quiet pride swelling in him. Humanity's stories were powerful, haunting, and inspiring. They demonstrated that strength was more than weapons. It was spirit, courage, unity, and hope. And as long as humans endured, the galaxy would always have a species capable of greatness. As night fell over Zoraya, Kalar reflected on the countless human worlds he had observed. Each conflict, each victory, and each act of rebuilding left an impression, not only on humans themselves, but on all who witnessed them. That was the true power of humanity, the ability to grow, adapt, and inspire in the face of any challenge. And in that quiet city among the stars, the veteran alien knew that humans' legacy of courage, unity, and resilience would continue to echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The city of Zoraya glowed quietly under the endless stars. Inside his quarters, Kalar stood before the young alien historians, his gaze distant but sharp, reflecting centuries of experience. The stories of human ingenuity and resilience had already filled their minds, but Kalar knew that the final tales, those of near extinction, survival against impossible odds, and lasting legacy, would leave an even deeper mark. Today, Kalar began, I will share the human stories that are perhaps the most haunting and inspiring. These are moments when all seemed lost, when the odds were impossibly against them, and yet humans survived, not only physically but morally, intellectually, and spiritually. You will see why they matter to the galaxy. The historians leaned forward eagerly, their forearms resting on the smooth metallic floor, as Kalar activated a large holographic map. The display zoomed in on a small blue planet orbiting a distant star. It was Earth, the origin of humanity, But the time displayed was one of crisis. Environmental disasters, internal conflicts, and external threats had combined to bring humanity to the edge of collapse. Long ago, Kalar said softly, humans faced dangers that should have destroyed them entirely. They were divided by politics, religion, and ideology. Natural disasters struck, sometimes wiping out entire regions. And yet, in the darkest times, humans endured. Their strength was not in their technology alone. It was in their spirit, their will to survive, and their ability to unite when it mattered most. The hologram shifted to a scene of massive storms battering coastal cities. Humans moved tirelessly, rescuing children, helping the elderly, and reinforcing structures to survive the floods. Even when nature itself turned against them, Kalar explained, humans did not surrender. They adapted, they improvised, and they protected one another. That is one of the many ways they demonstrate strength that is invisible yet powerful. Vera, the young historian, whispered, "It is as if no challenge can truly break them." Indeed, Kalar said, humans fight on multiple fronts, against each other, against nature, and against enemies beyond their world. They face despair, yet they act. And they act not for glory, but for survival, for ideals, and for one another. The hologram shifted again, showing humans defending a distant colony from a highly advanced alien species known as the Girak. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned, yet they devised a plan that was equal parts clever and daring. Using terrain, decoys, and small improvised weapons, they managed to delay the Girak advance long enough to evacuate civilians. "Notice," Kalar said, pointing at the display, "that humans do not fight for conquest. They fight to protect life. Even when faced with annihilation, they act with purpose, precision, and courage. Each act, each decision, is meaningful." Lumo's eyes widened. "Even when outnumbered, they never give up. How do they manage that?" Kalar's voice was quiet but firm. "Because their strength comes from unity and hope. Every human understands that their survival is not individual, it is collective. They draw courage from each other. One person's bravery inspires another. One decision can save thousands. That is why humans are unpredictable and why they endure when others fail." The hologram changed again to a scene of humans working to rebuild a planet after a devastating war. Cities were in ruins, food and water were scarce, and the survivors were weary. Yet humans moved with determination. Engineers repaired power systems, scientists restored communication networks, and ordinary citizens carried supplies and comforted the injured. Even in the aftermath of near-total destruction, Kalar explained, humans do not despair. They plan, organize, and rebuild. They analyze mistakes and improve their strategies. Each challenge, each failure becomes a lesson, not a reason to surrender. That is how humans leave lasting legacies. Vera asked softly, "So they learn faster than other species?" "Not faster by instinct alone," Kalar replied, "but faster because they remember, they reflect, and they care. Their conflicts are teachers. They do not repeat the same mistakes blindly. That is why human civilizations evolve so quickly compared to many alien species. Every battle, every disaster, every moment of despair shapes them into stronger, wiser beings." He then shared a story of reconciliation after a planetary war. Two human factions had fought fiercely over resources, leaving thousands dead and cities in ruins. For many years, hatred ran deep. Yet, human leaders realized that continued conflict would destroy everyone. They chose cooperation, shared knowledge, rebuilt cities together, and formed a united government. The historians leaned closer, fascinated. "They forgive and unite?" Lumo asked. "Yes," Kalar said. "Humans understand that survival and progress often require more than strength in battle. They combine courage with compassion, learning from their past to build a better future. That is a lesson many species struggle to understand. Humans embody it naturally." Kalar's gaze softened as he showed another hologram, humans exploring distant planets. Even after surviving countless near-extinction events, humans continue to explore, innovate, and expand their understanding of the universe. They do not allow fear to limit them. They take risks, learn from mistakes, and continue forward. Their conflicts teach them resilience, but their vision and curiosity carry them beyond conflict. Vera whispered in awe. They are not just survivors, they are pioneers. Kalar nodded. Yes, humans fight, survive, rebuild, and then push further. That is why their presence leaves marks across the galaxy. They inspire other species, not only with their victories but with their endurance, creativity, and moral courage. Even when defeated temporarily, they rise stronger and wiser. That is the legacy of humanity. He then shared the final and most haunting story, a time when humans faced an existential threat. A massive asteroid was on a collision course with Earth, threatening to wipe out all life. Governments, scientists, and civilians worked together across the globe, sharing knowledge and resources. They built devices to deflect the asteroid, trained crews for dangerous missions, and coordinated worldwide efforts to protect life. The hologram showed humans launching spacecraft, guiding nuclear devices, and calculating precise trajectories. The asteroid was immense, yet the humans' combined courage, ingenuity, and determination saved their world. Notice, Kalar said, that even in the face of extinction, humans do not panic. They do not despair. They act. And through their action, they change fate itself. That is the essence of human legacy, an enduring spirit that no threat can truly destroy. Lumo and Vera were silent, moved beyond words. The human capacity to endure, innovate, and act even when the odds were hopeless left them in awe. Kalar turned off the hologram and addressed the historians. Remember this, humans are not merely a species of flesh and bone. They are beacons of hope, courage, and resilience. They are teachers for the galaxy, showing that strength is not measured by technology, size, or numbers, but by spirit, unity, and determination. He walked to the window overlooking Zoraya, his eyes reflecting the stars. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have seen countless wars and disasters. But humans, they leave marks that endure. They fight, they rebuild, and they inspire. And that is why I continue to study them. That is why I share their stories. For even in the darkest times, humans remind us all that hope, courage, and unity can prevail. Vera finally spoke, her voice trembling with awe. I understand now. Humans are not just fighters, they are teachers, pioneers, and survivors. Their conflicts do not destroy them. They make them stronger, wiser, and braver. Yes, Kalar said, smiling faintly. And one day, the galaxy will recognize them not as a small, fragile species, but as a civilization capable of extraordinary feats. Their legacy is not only in victories or discoveries, but in the spirit they carry, the hope they inspire, and the courage they show in every challenge. The young historians bowed deeply. They had begun their journey thinking humans were ordinary, perhaps even weak. But now, through Kalar's stories, they understood that humans were extraordinary, not because of technology or numbers, but because of heart, mind, and unity. Kalar deactivated the last hologram, leaving the room bathed in soft light. These are the lessons of humanity, he said. Their conflicts are haunting, yes, but they are also awe-inspiring. They remind us that even the smallest, seemingly fragile beings can shape the future, inspire hope, and leave a lasting legacy across the stars. The historians rose, their minds and hearts filled with new understanding. As they left Kalar's quarters, they glanced at the stars outside and felt a sense of reverence. Humanity was not merely a species. They were an example of what courage, creativity, and determination could achieve. Kalar remained by the window, watching the stars, reflecting on the countless human worlds he had observed. Each one had faced danger, adversity, and despair, yet each had survived, adapted, and grown stronger. Each human story was a lesson, a spark of hope, a testament to the enduring power of spirit. And that, Kalar whispered to himself, is why humans matter. The city of Zoraya was quiet, peaceful, and bathed in starlight. Yet across the galaxy, humans continued their journey, facing challenges, overcoming adversity, and leaving marks that would endure far beyond their own world. Their legacy was not only in what they built, but in the courage, unity, and hope they inspired. And Kalar, the veteran alien who had witnessed it all, knew that humanity's story was far from over. The stars watched silently, as they always had, bearing witness to the spirit of a small but extraordinary species that refused to yield, refused to despair, and refused to be ordinary. Humanity's legacy, Kalar knew, would continue to shine brightly across the galaxy, a beacon for all who needed hope, courage, and the reminder that spirit can overcome any challenge. And so, the tale of humanity, of conflicts, survival, and enduring legacy, came to a close in Kalar's quarters. Yet it was only the beginning of a story that would echo across the stars forever.